Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind Podcast. This episode was with the Douchey Gym Bros, Nick Burrell and Josh Lambrecht. Josh and Nick have started a podcast. They also run Versa Fitness and Versa CrossFit in the corridor area of Iowa. It was a fun conversation. They're really good guys. They're doing good things. Check it out. Let me know what you thought of the podcast. Like, subscribe, and follow, and appreciate you being here. And not to my computer anymore. So no, I got Josh Lambrecht. Did I say your last name right, Josh?
Yeah, you got it, dude.
All right. And then I got Nick Burrell. They're on the podcast. So the big Josh and Nick are local to me. God, I'm sounding like people actually listen to this. Like nobody listens to this, guys. I'm just gonna tell you that straight up.
Never
Uh,
know.
but no, you guys started the Douchey Gym Bros podcast, which like I love because it's freaking true. It's true, but it's not. Like the perception of gym guys or gym people is that we're kind of douchey, and I'm throwing myself into that bank. But of my interactions with you guys, you're not that douchey. So tell me about the inspiration for it, and then like what the overarching, like what is your mentality? Like why did you even start a podcast? Because like I'm with you. Like everybody and their mother has a freaking podcast right now. But like
Huh.
what's it about for you guys?
Yeah, do you want to take this one, Nick, or?
Yeah, so the name kind of came to us when we went to this business kind of like incubator. It was a reality TV show, and we were learning about different ways to run business and like competition based. And a lot of people made judgments about us based on how we looked. And granted, like we go into those and we are not like we went in like a fucking game face. Like we're not talking to anyone. We're doing this, we're here to win. So we probably fit it a little bit, but over time you got to know people and we weren't, and then we realized like people's judgments about us, like where we were these douchey gym bros, like pretty typical. And I remember, in particularly, when the first people we were talking to, like vibing with, they're like, "Oh, we thought you were like these douchey gym bros." I was like, "Oh, okay." It's kind of a stereotypical. And then people were telling us to start a podcast. Josh and I have been talking about it for a long time. Then it kind of came to fruition. Where we are like, "Huh, this might be a good name, kind of catchy. It's kind of you know, making the logo, putting some universe stuff in the logo, the stars and like planets. I'm like, let's just like play around with this." And I think for us, it's just like we just have fun doing it. And we've seen when we enjoy doing stuff and passionate doing stuff, it comes out as very like real and authentic. And I think like that's like the main goal of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what my perception so far. And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't listened to full episodes, but I like taking in all your clips and like uh Sam's podcast, just talking. Like I know Sam from when I coached CrossFit and Sam was doing CrossFit. Um and like Sam's a really good guy. But just like that, he had like a vulnerable conversation with you guys, which is dope because um that's like what a lot of shit, like I sound like a, I don't know if I'm like a douchey mystical guy, but like it is like the deep relationships that are cool, like in the fitness space, like actually coaching somebody, actually helping them build belief in themselves, which like we probably know is a huge part of like fitness and health and whatever, but a lot of the mainstream's fitness perception is like that it's just all about aesthetics, or it's all about like weird performance oriented things that a lot of people don't get. So what yeah, like tell me more about, just you're kind of launching it with talking with your people, right, which is really cool, but what have you learned already from the experience?
I think what I've learned is that people were really surprised at how open and honest we were, which I always felt I was a little surprised by that too. I always felt like we were pretty open and honest people, but see us like kind of saying some of these things as allowed other people to be open and honest with us about their feelings and like how they were related to like, oh my gosh, like I have felt that same way and maybe we're afraid to talk about it. So I think that is what the biggest thing that I've seen that has been really cool. And just learning that a lot of people feel the same way and they're just afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, dude. I love that. Nick, you got
Yeah.
anything to add?
Yeah, I was just surprised like how taboo a lot of the stuff was. Like people were shocked that we talked about our grades. And I was like, I don't give a fuck what my
Yeah. No care in the world.
grades were. And a lot of like, man, like you guys were talking about like deep stuff, and I was like, huh, like this is the conversation Josh and I like enjoy behind like closed door sounds weird, but
Yeah.
Well, don't you just, it's people are just afraid. Like, dude, I hate, I like small talk, but I really kind of hate small talk. Like, I want to talk to people about like the shit that matters to you. And I want to have fun. Most of the time, I just want to dick around and have fun. Right. But then it's also like, yeah, I kind of don't care about like, let's talk about Hawkeye. I don't care about Hawkeye basketball that much. Like, you know,
Dude.
like that's the type of stuff that super fit. Like I do, like I love sports, but like I don't give that much of a shit. Like, hey, what's something that you know fires you up and makes you like want to do shit? And like also like I remember Nick, me and you when we had that conversation, like that coffee one time. I was like scared to reach out and like have a conversation with you because like I'm not really a competitor because I'm not really doing the same thing as you guys, but I perceived you to be like my competition. And the older I get, I'm like, no, like there's so many people that benefit from fitness and benefit from like rehabilitation guidance, right? But like me and you just talked about like mystical shit we believed in for like
Yeah.
45 minutes. And we're like, you know, and it's kind of sounds psychotic, but like it was amazing. And it like that was actual human bonding, right? Like, do you think, all right, do you guys think because like you're in well now you're in a CrossFit gym and you're in Versa, but you were in Versa before. But yeah, is the perception that like working out is like the most important thing in the world, like something that you think a lot of times it's like fitness becomes our identity. There are a lot of people in the fitness space where their identity is fitness, but like the more I get away from that and I'm just like trying to be me, do you think like things get better and people like, I don't know, would you say business gets better?
in terms of like if you take your identity away from fitness,
Yeah. I mean,
like
it's
if
like
you,
it's a big piece of it, like because I love doing this stuff for fun, but like I don't give a shit if you eat a cheeseburger. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I think it does because you show that you're like real people. Like once like you show like you have real people and connection, like it makes a aspect where people can trust you or connect with you. And that I think that's one thing with the podcast too that was surprising was had a few people actually say challenging the masculinity, whatever that word is, like challenging that. And I was like, I don't even know like how we challenge that, but I think being relatable to people like they want to do like, hey, it's okay. You can do these different things and still hit these goals. I don't know. Yeah, I would say probably, yeah. I mean, social media is fake.
Yeah. I was just recently in Kansas City for another business a conference thing and I kept asking the group, I was like, and some of the locals that were kind of in the group with us, I was like, man, like what's the best ice cream spot or like donut spot around here? And they're like, wow, like the fitness guy is asking about this. And I was like, yeah, I fucking like donuts and ice cream. Like, what's wrong with that? But they you have these like they just think like, oh, you're this fitness guy or this fitness person. So it's weird that you like these real people things. And that was another thing that one of our members told us, Nick. I don't know if she ever told you this, but she said it's so cool how real we are and not fake.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
Drink beers, eat nachos.
I mean, most of the like this is legitimately like so I just hired like somebody to like work on nutrition with me. Mostly I don't know when this will get out, but like we're expecting a child and like I want to like just nutrition is like my comfort and I know I'm going to be more
Yeah.
stressed, right? So but I want to continue to eat ice cream like every day. So it's like how do I just manage it and you know, Nick or no, Josh, I know like we've talked about and I know you talk about like you got to eat. Like people so often get into the endurance space or the strength and conditioning space and they like stop eating and it's like no, like that's not what this is about. Especially high intensity and as much workload as being like a good CrossFitter or being a good runner demands, like you're gonna have to eat appropriately. And that's been a journey that I've gone on myself where I've just like probably underate, and like being real is really cool with that. Like, so that kind of stems like, all right, I know I don't really know you guys' origin stories, but like tell me about, yeah, like how you got into fitness, how you got into strength in the first place. Versa has definitely evolved. I don't really know a ton, but I know that you guys undertook a CrossFit facility. But like, how did your origins then eventually lead to where you guys are now?
Yeah, let's see. I've been pretty athletic my whole life. So I don't know what term you want to use for that, but it's always kind of
Douchey. Douchey's the word we're
yeah,
gonna use for
douchey.
that.
It's always kind of come to me. So, all throughout high school with wrestling, and then going to college and wrestling. And then actually, this is funny. I was my first semester in college, I was a criminal justice major. Right? Wild. Um, but dropped that immediately. And then
What
went
made you
in.
drop it? Was it like looking around the room, seeing who you were with, or just like, yeah, what?
No, I took the first semester and it was like, this is not for me. This is not what I thought. I honestly don't know what I thought. I think I just kind of like, when you're 18 and they're trying to like have you make one of the biggest, like, what are you gonna be? What are you gonna do with your life? And you're like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of like choose something. So that's what happened. And then I dropped out of that major and then eventually just finished up with an AA, like an Associates of Arts or whatever it's called,
Mhm.
basically a useless degree, to get me into the next chapter, which was University of Iowa. And then while I was at the University of Iowa, all throughout those years is when I kind of found like, man, I really love health and fitness. It's something that I've maybe the universe was just like, hey, you're pretty good at this stuff. So kind of drawn towards that. And even though I wasn't the greatest of students, it still was something that really intrigued me. And I've done a ton of learning outside of the college level, as far as literature, reading, listening, and watching videos. So I did a lot of my learning like that and experimenting as well, right? You see something experimental, you try it out, see if it works, and typically when the science says that it works, it works. Um, so fell into that and then eventually got a job at a gym called Kosama, which is where I met Nick. And just never stopped training since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yeah, I played basketball throughout my whole like middle school, high school, college, and I was like decent. It came very naturally to me, but I did not work very hard at it. I don't know if I truly enjoyed it. So once I was done with basketball, I did some online school. Went to Iowa, dropped out of Iowa a couple times, did some more online schools here and there. And then during that time, I was always working in the health and fitness area. So I did personal training for a while. I was teaching classes at Kusama. Something always drew me to it. So I don't know exactly what that was. Then I found I really enjoyed it. And so then I had all these experiences for like 7, 8 years where I was getting my degree working at different gyms. A lot of them went under too. So I saw a lot of different kind of what not to do scenarios, and I was not the best employee. I mean, I would imagine like if Josh and I's 23-year-old selves came up to us and like, hey, I want a job, we'd be like, go the fuck home.
Yeah. I'd laugh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's probably, oh, man, I was a super big rule follower and like afraid of stuff. So almost to the opposite, like not to the opposite. Like I think what I wish is that I would have tried out more things as opposed to like you said, Josh, like you're like told to pick something and then like that's your path. Like, and it's kind of the same thing with like fitness. Like we can talk about this because this is probably one of my big things is like it's a freaking journey. Like just because you got into one thing doesn't mean you can't pivot. And like if you like heavy lifting, but like 3 years later down the road, like it doesn't float your boat and you want to start running, like there's no reason to like not do that, right? Or if you're really into CrossFit and you just get kind of burnt out on it, like there's no reason to not go do something else. Like, which I think is something that I appreciate. You're like, I mean, you guys can tap into that too. I don't remember if it was on Sam's. I saw another clip. It's like getting good at CrossFit doesn't necessarily mean doing CrossFit, right? And like getting good at like and just doing fitness is super meaningful. That's where I wanted to go with this. Like healthcare is bullshit. Like that's because I thought I wanted to be a doctor and like I was gonna fix people. And like, you know, I got my doctorate in physical therapy and like I'm very grateful for my education, but like most of it is just, are we training like appropriately? Are you meeting yourself where you're at? Does the workload that you're doing and the exercises you're you know trying to do, does it make sense? Right? It's not like you guys posted that guy crawling the other day. And it's like it's not, there's no freaking stupid magic exercises. There's no fixing, right? So I don't know if that resonates. I'm just kind of bullshitting now, but yeah, like what are your guys' perception of what people think? Because maybe that's what it is. People think that there's this super linear path, right? And it's like, no, it's probably gonna be, you know, some years of showing up, trying hard, figuring out what you want.
I think oh, what you say, Josh?
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I think a lot of it nowadays, what I've seen, even working one-on-one with people and so on, is social media. So if they have someone they connect with on social media and that person like super fit looking and they believe what that person's putting out, they're going to believe that program works for them. In reality, I remember I worked with one person, looked at it, and I was like, what is the difference between this workout and that workout? Nothing, just who presents it. And we kind of figured that out too in the program CrossFit programming. It was all about like who presents it or like what this person's perception of you is. And I think like that's been a huge thing I've seen with social media lately. So we're talking about journeys of exercise. People are gonna follow who they perceive as like valuable or know what they're doing or honestly just like hot in a way.
Yeah,
Like I mean it sucks, right? But social media, we see it all the time. And I always say like, oh, that's an Instagram exercise. Like but it's a real, I think it's a real thing with exercise. And it's a real thing with diet and nutrition. And like in Sam's podcast, when he talked about like life is simple, like results are really, it's really simple. Like they're very simple, but I think social media makes it very complex.
yeah, yeah. I agree to that. That's it's a really good point that um I think everyone wants to make things more complex than they really need to be. Um Exercise is like, I mean, you would agree, like I think you guys would both agree that it's like the most simple thing. No matter what form it is, like if you just do it, you're gonna get results in some capacity. And just I was thinking while you were talking, Nick, one of the best experiments I ever ran, this is a pun, because it was for a running program, is we tried a marathon training program and then tried to get people like, hey, like zone 2, it's like this magic thing, not really magic, but like there's a lot of physiology behind it and why it works. But like if you do that for like most of your runs, you're gonna see like this like big aerobic capacity boost. So then I went and did that and then dropped like 2 hours off of my marathon. And then people were like, oh, like that works. And I was like, I didn't make this shit up. Like,
Yeah.
We're
I
like
think,
seeing that like nowadays, man. Like the zone two is so popular, and I'm
oh my God.
like Josh was telling you
everywhere.
this like 6 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to some extent, like what zone 2 it's actually like sustainable work that's probably not going to kick the shit out of you, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
So you can build up your mileage you're probably going to be more successful, right? And so, and
Yeah.
what we do in the fitness space is like we put names on shit that like you know, like contrast training, like you know, like we just honestly, I'm just throwing out names. It's like, yeah, lift something heavy, move something fast. That's contrast training. It's like people have been doing that since barbells were freaking invented. Like, you know, they figured out that lifting something heavy was good, but every 10 to 15 years, you guys know this too. Like we just recycle it, and it's a new influencer putting something in. And like even CrossFit, like when I first started finding CrossFit, I found it because I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I wanted to be the hardest mother, like look at me, I'm like the least hard person
Uh,
ever, but I wanted to do something really hard and I found it. And at that time it was like, it was really cool. It was a little bit different than how a lot of people program now, but it was like, you know, it was hard training and it wasn't bodybuilding stuff, right? So it was different. But people have been doing similar things for a long time. Yeah, you're so right. I think it really is like people's perception of who's doing it and what it is. And like a lot of times it's like just being a model for like simple shit works, but you have to like actually push yourself and you actually have to show up. And some days you got to take a rest day, right? And not do prescribed work or whatever. So that's a good segue into like, all right, tricky part of running tricky part of running groups fitness, and like, you know, or fitness in general. What are the tricky parts? What are the things that you didn't necessarily, it can be business or it can be just personal with people. What are the tricky things about those spaces, and then what are the good things about them?
I think like I think the trickiness has like evolved over the time, right? Like it used to be just like basic management of classes, facility, like, okay, how do we make these workouts? And now like the tricky part is like, okay, how do we get people, like people we work with, to buy into our same vision that we have, right? And like our processes. So the tricky part I think always changes. I think the trickiest part, I don't know, for us, probably one of the trickiest parts the past year or two is taking over our second facility, the CrossFit facility. But I think it was also one of the best learning experiences we've had. Uh, Definitely put our egos in check, put everything in check, and it's just like a giant learning experience. But I will say that was very tricky in a sense of going from a place where like people really like you to maybe a place where you're like not so liked and you can feel it every day. Like, okay, like what? I need to do some self reflection. Like, what am I doing wrong? Did I do anything wrong? What are we doing wrong? So that was a really tricky navigation for a lot of aspects. We had to have a lot of hard conversations, which was tricky. But looking back, I think the growth we got from it, and then like the next time it happens, we know what we're going into, and we learned that change is very hard for people, even if we perceive it as positive.
It's good.
yeah. Yeah. I think um a little bit more on that. The really hard part when I've had a few younger men specifically come up to me and be like, "Hey, I really want to do this or do that and open this gym and I love fitness and things like that." And I always tell them, "Hey, you probably have all of these awesome ideas or like ways you want to train people, and you think that everyone is just going to automatically agree with the way, like with your ideas, or even if they're actual facts. Like you have to earn those people's trust first before they will like buy into what you're trying to do with them." And I think that was one thing that was like the hardest thing, opening up Versa Fitness, and then again opening up Versa CrossFit. I think the same thing was just like we just assumed the trust was there,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
was
it
not.
wasn't there at Versa Fitness either.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a really good point. It wasn't when we took over our first spot. It wasn't there either. People just
Yeah,
knew us because we coached them, but at the same time, like these dudes were terrible
dude.
employees.
You
For
guys want to know? I mean, that was probably a giant ego check for me, was going from like being a coach. And that's some of it is just, it is the ego title of like, now you're a physical therapist, which honestly, guys, I don't give a shit about being a physical therapist. Like, I just went and got that degree because like I wanted to open a gym and be a coach. And I'm like, well, you need to like have some other skill, like, or some greater skill that like can help you build the business, you know. And so going to PT school was a part of that. But and I think there's a lot of people that like, oh, just because I have this title, it makes it, or just because I got this certification, that means things are gonna happen for me. It's like, no, like you gotta like earn that shit over and over again. And the first part is trust, right? Like if you don't show up for people and if people don't know you care, they're not going to keep showing up for you. And that's a really hard thing for, I think, a lot of people who maybe want to go into business and fitness. Cause like, honestly, most of the, like, I don't know what you guys are taking for continuing education. None of it's that brand new or revolutionary. Like it's just kind of same stuff over and over again. If anything, the best stuff is just how to communicate with people, right? And how to like get, you know, how to help people where they're at, right? Um, when it came to, all right, because like I don't know your exact story, but you guys, it was Kosama. Was it Kosama before it was Versa?
Osama.
And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
went
yeah.
under.
Kosama.
Yeah, it was going under or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, like the flavor is Versa. I should probably take a class at some point. Sorry guys. I just like being alone in my garage. I apologize.
I feel
But
no, I feel
is
that.
Versa methodically that different than Kosama? Is it like your own flavor? Is it, or is it like I haven't, I haven't been a giant group fitness person, which is I'm just not that educated other than CrossFit stuff. But what did you, or what have you changed about it since taking it over, or you know, building your own thing?
Kusama was very, you gotta do kickboxing. There was no machines in it. Kettlebells. I would say the biggest change we made up front was we brought barbells in, and we brought them into a facility that did not use barbells, probably was not the total demographic that thought about using barbells. And so when we first did that, we brought these like strong days in. It was a real change of pace. We got rid of the bags, so that was a big one. Uh, so that was a big change that we made. That was 7, 8 years ago when strength training wasn't so mainstream. So we had a lot of conversations with people about like I'm gonna get bulky or this is I don't need this, and we just
Huh.
had to like kind of
Well,
stick to it, and we just had to kind of believe in it. But then we had to take the balance of like what we know is right, like physiologically, and then like how can we psychologically make this fun and adaptive. So what we did is like, okay, we want a back squat today. We want them to do 4 sets of 12. What we're going to do is put in a class format where they're going to do 45 seconds. They're going to rest 15 seconds. And they're going to do another 45 seconds of back squat. So they're going to feel like they had this burn. So you're like finding this balance of like, okay, this is the right exercise. How can we make this exercise feel like they're having this burn and burn calories? And like if we do that, you have to like give up a little bit of your scientific principles, but when you do that, adherence goes up and then the consistency goes up. And that's the ultimate goal we kind of
Yeah.
created Versa Fitness.
yeah. And then you can start making slow, little changes over the course of years to get to where you like want it more so without like completely changing it.
I think you guys just hit on the head why I haven't done like opened a gym yet, because what I have always, and honestly why a lot of gyms fail is because it's like we're gonna do like optimal train, like I'm not saying optimal training, we're gonna do like barbell training, right? Well, and we can talk about this. Your average person does not want that shit. They don't want 5 sets of 5 with 3 minutes rest, right? They don't want heavy power cleans. You know, they don't want like, and we can, and this is where I think suspending your ego and be like, all right, how do I help people get healthy versus how do I do what I want to do is probably the biggest thing, right? So talk about, because that's, you kind of segued into the next thing, like what does the average gym goer want? And then, you know, I don't hate it, you know, the sell what they want, give what they need mentality. I don't really love that, but you are kind of talking like we do want to make it like fit what science and evidence supports to actually get people results, because that's another big thing is people go do what they like forever and they never actually get results. But like what does the average person in your guys' opinion want, and maybe why? And then, you know, how do you get them over time to see that there may be better ways of doing things?
Yeah. I think it's a pretty big question.
Yeah, sorry.
Because they want a lot of things, right? I think you can think of like the obvious things are for the majority of people is they typically enter a gym, and this is purely from our um our experience, is the number one thing we get on any like intro survey or talking to people is I want to lose weight. That's almost all of it. It's not everyone, but that's a big thing, right? So wanting to like better their health, um, I think is like it's a very real thing. But I think is a very surface level answer after you get to know someone and realize like, okay, well, maybe they want to lose weight because they aren't feeling super confident in their relationship, or, just really hate looking in the mirror. Or they want to be able to see their grandkids and live a long life. Like those are like, there's a lot of like really big, deep reasons. Just from what like talking to our members or talking to other gym owners, and is what I see. I don't know if you want to add to that, Nick.
Uh, yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I think the average person, um, I say get stronger, but I think like that's code for I want to look leaner, and that I
Yeah.
think it's a more accepted way to say it because there's a lot of like you shouldn't want to lose weight, you shouldn't want to do this. So like, what's the outlet I can say now? And I
Yeah,
think getting stronger is probably that outlet now.
yeah,
Um, so I think that's what most people want. They want to get stronger. Then I also think if you're coming into a group fitness place, at some point or not, you want to feel a part of something.
yeah,
Like you want to feel a part of it. And we even see that people that stay the longest feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves a little bit. So creating that community atmosphere, creating that personal touch, like you take a genuine interest in that. So like I mean, all of our coaches know all of our people's names.
yeah,
I think that should like that's a simple thing. I think a lot of people seek that out is a place where they can feel welcome, seen. Because Josh and I had a realization one time that most of these people wake up, go to work, and there's an hour where they use it as like theirs or their time or whatever. And I think that's a massive part of what we do is just taking a genuine interest when they come in the door.
yeah. No, I
Mhm.
think like the creating ripple effects type of mentality, like it is like, you know, just relating it, pain sucks. So like when you're in pain, it's not the pain. It's like what the pain is holding you back from, right? If you know that you can get through it, or you know that there's something good on the other side of it, like it's a lot more endurable. But same thing with like you guys, it's like um it's it's deeper than, well, it's, you know, people physically moving your body after the end or at the beginning of a long workday is like super super empowering, right? Like it literally shows you, like it takes you out of honestly being sitting in a bullshit like office, not really loving your job and stuff. It literally can help you escape that, which is super powerful. But then like yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen this, like people's confidence probably over the course of months and years, it like people become different people over time, which is really cool. Um,
Mhm.
and like you guys have drastically become different people. I mean, imagine 23-year-old douchebag Josh and 23-year-old douchebag Nick, and like it's because of people. It's not because of the workouts. Like the workouts are great, right? But it's because of being around people that you can positively influence and that they positively influence you. Like the tribal aspect, that's the next. Okay, so I'm not trying to make this like question, but like super question on, but like the tribal mentality, you guys, because like you're building a tribe, and then you went and you took over another tribe, which is probably scary and hard.
Yep.
What we should we just shit on tribal mentalities for a little bit, because I feel like that's where I want to go. But
Dude,
is it just belonging? And what's so hard about like gyms? Why are gyms like that? You guys notice that? Like gyms are super fucking tribal places.
well, I think tribalism is everywhere, right? It's
Yeah.
just like where is it going to manifest itself today? And because like each community of our places had like big scale, right? Two tribes. So their tribalism, but even within that tribe was tribalism. So it's just like this constant ripple of tribalism all the way down. You just see it in everything we do. I was most surprised by tribalism based on how people want to move their bodies. Like that one fucking blew my mind. Like who the fuck cares? And
Yeah.
at first I thought it was just like CrossFit judging versus fitness, but then I realized it was versus fitness judging versus CrossFit as well, and I was like, what the fuck is going on, guys? Like,
Wow.
like you're both lifting a barbell right now, but your ideologies about how you should lift that barbell is why you're getting so heated. Like logically, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I had like some conversations where people put down other modes of exercise, and I was just like, what? Like, why? Just because that person doesn't enjoy that, they're like different, and like we're gonna
Yeah.
sit here and preach like equality and togetherness, but you know what? You're gonna be divisive on how this person wants to use the fucking barbell.
Yeah.
Do you think that's like the idea of like that there's a best way to do it, or is it like when is it just like rooted in like, well, I'm not doing it and I want to feel good about what I'm doing? Like as opposed because I think full disclosure, like my therapist just helped me realize like a couple years ago, it's like, dude, everything's just preferences. Humans just have preferences and then they go and they push their preferences on other people. And the more you just realize that, the less you care. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, that's right. And
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, so I
like,
don't understand why members at either place were pushing their preference on what should be done. We underestimated the polarization of like CrossFit in general. And I think as we got into it, we realized like how polarizing it truly is.
Yeah. I think, speaking on that too, it was really I think it was a really hard for both of us, like mentally a little bit too, because it felt like a little blow to like, wow, like we've just built up all of this trust and you're like no longer trusting us. Like it's gone.
yeah,
We're saying that this is okay to go to do this. Uh, um, and it was just like, no, no, it's not.
yeah.
Which
Isn't that
is,
isn't
I
that fucking
mean,
wild?
it's wild. Yeah, it's wild.
Because like, I mean, it's not it's not that it's not different, but they're not that different. And I think
Dude,
that's the hard part about it, right? Yeah. Like, look at your
dude,
face.
people talk like we don't know what we're doing. Like, bro, we've done this for 10 years.
Well, and I
Yeah.
mean, you guys, some of the best CrossFit workouts I ever made, I made in 5 minutes before the class started because that was like, and it was literally like, who do I know is coming? What'll be challenging for them and what'll be hard, but also like not a complete kick in the pants. You know,
Dude.
like like it's I think people do this with power. Like honestly, guys, I have some really strong power lifters on my roster right now. Their training is super freaking simple. And most of it is just that I have a conversation with them every month and I just try to keep them on the ball with what they say they want, right? Like
Yeah.
that's really the game. And you guys, I'm sure you guys agree with that. It's like once we can really get to what you want, once I really figure out what you want, it's so much easier to go after, right? Even if it's multiple things, like even if you want to run and lift, that's okay. But if you're running and lifting and then you tell me you want to go get good at golf, it's like, all right, what are you after here? Like, what do we need here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I think the hard part is like we all perceive that we're just trying to do good and we're just trying to help. Like dude, I hurts. It doesn't hurt, but like people are not broken. People have been told stupid shit about their bodies by all sorts of people for since the age of time. It's like show up, do what you can do today, and it'll probably lead to more. But like if that person doesn't believe that, they're screwed. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like if you don't believe you're going to get the results that you want from the thing you're doing, you're not going to get them, right? And I think that's one of the hardest parts about it for me is like I just want you to trust yourself almost. And to some degree, like that requires you trusting me. But people are so it's honestly easier to believe like that there's good and evil, or that CrossFit's bad and what I'm doing is good, or that thing's wrong and it's right, than it is to like actually open your mind to like there's a lot of ways to do this. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just spitballing a lot
Oh,
of shit here.
yeah, no, 100%. I think we talked about this in one of them, but we knew it did not matter what we did whatsoever when. So Josh kind of headed it, the programming, and we bought a couple and we put a couple of the workouts in. People were telling us to do that from like mainstream CrossFit
Oh
people,
yeah.
and people complain about them the most.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, it truly does not matter what we do because they just don't like us.
Have you guys ever read The Courage to Be Disliked?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I listened to it on Audible, but yes, a lot of people need to fucking read that book.
I would agree. I
A
would agree.
lot of people.
I think that's what you just said there, Nick, is probably what has hit the nail on the head for me a lot of times. Is like, out of 10 people, 3 people are gonna hate your guts no matter what you do. Maybe 2, whatever it is.
Yeah,
4 of them are gonna be indifferent, and if you can get the 3 that are you vibe with to stay with you, like that's the win, right? And yeah, like I mean, I look at CrossFit, I look at some programming. It's like, guys, it's like volume, intensity, exercise selection. What do you want to do? It's not crazy complicated, but everybody is out there. And this is the hard part about marketing is like you're just constantly combating like other people's marketing bullshit, right?
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Like I commend you for doing it. How how have you navigated that? Like, do you are you still doing the programming? Is it just gotten better because of time and you guys showing up, or what's that look like?
Yeah, no, I'm still doing it. I think a lot of it was also um like not only being there and building those relationships and building that trust. I think that's a huge part of it. But showing that it works. Like I again, I don't believe any program is like wrong or bad within like certain parameters. Um, I think there's a lot of things you can do with any program and still have wild success. What I did is I just like periodized it a little bit. I know I pronounced that wrong, but like put a little more structure into it, and we just saw everyone making all of this progress, and I was like, well, like, and I'm not doing anything crazy here.
Yeah, yeah,
And and like kept it fun too, right? And like played on the names a little bit, got people excited, and is just really just making things more structured, um, giving a little bit more structure to the coaches as well, and just the gym in general. And I think all of that really influenced, and I think a lot of people seeing that like, okay, it wasn't the programming, it was just everything else.
dude.
And now this gym is like really awesome place to be.
The minutia of the micro event, like just you adding 10 pounds to the bar, right? Like
Yeah,
when you should,
yeah,
like I think that's probably been my biggest takeaway for my own business is like when I have people who have super specific goals, they don't really care what I call stuff. But when I kind of get the more nebulous people, like me dialing in what I call shit and naming it and it fitting what they're wanting makes a
yeah.
giant freaking difference. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, this is a strength. We're doing a strength block for the next 6 weeks, right? Like we're gonna push up your 3 rep max. Like that gives them like, even because they don't necessarily they have some vagueness in their goals, but that at least gives them some like specificity. I think that's just it's probably the most important thing I've learned in the past like year and a half is just like name shit for that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, yeah, that really reminds me like back when we took it over, almost having to like go like overboard with like why we're doing certain things and explain that. Do you remember that, Nick?
Yeah, I do.
I completely forgot about that. Now you kind
I
of
did
brought
forget about
that
that.
up. Wow. Wild.
And it was crazy. Like it wasn't just like, and like, I think for me too, we talked about the perception of it. What was crazy about it was because they perceived us as these boot camp
Yeah,
where we jump around for 60 minutes that we
not
don't,
CrossFit.
yeah, that we don't know how to do this. And I'm like the logic in this is so flawed.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
People would email. We have some really nasty emails. But we got
Take the
some.
names out, send those over to me. I just want to read them for individually.
But remember when we would get sent articles about what CrossFit is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
was like,
wasn't just like one or
whoa.
two. They were constant, like
Yeah, I
daily
was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
daily emails shitting on us. And I'm just like, and the part about it is like you just kill them with kindness when you see them.
Yeah.
Because people send emails because they're afraid to have that in-person conversation about it.
Dude.
And
Yes.
they hide behind the emails. I'm like, I'm not letting you fucking hide behind this email.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That's a great point. Because
like,
I mean, like, guys, you're showing up. So if you knew what you were doing and you want, like, this is not a knock on group fitness because I get why people do group fitness. Group fitness is great, but if you knew what the hell you were doing and why you were doing it and had the motivation to show up individually, you could go do that, right? Like, so if you're gonna
yeah,
shit on this program that is meant to be for the group, that is progressive in nature. Like, I don't like if you knew and this is, I will even say this, like if I knew and I had the perfect system, like I just go run that system, but that's not why I train for in and of itself, right? Like
Mhm.
and I think that's the pro. I kind of talked about advantages and disadvantages. The giant pro is that you have other people. Like that is probably the biggest thing I miss is just having other people like working hard with you and like joking and dicking around, right?
Mhm.
And that's a huge and very positive aspect. Humans need that, especially like coming out of the last 2020, right? Like okay, so we can talk about that because how the hell did that go for you? I don't really know how 2020 went for you guys. I don't know if I've ever asked.
oh,
It's
COVID.
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like 2020 was okay. Like we survived 2020. Actually did pretty well in 2020. 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
really.
it 2021 where we had the squares?
Yes. Like,
Yeah.
2020, it was interesting because everyone's like support like small business, like right, everyone kind of rallied. And then it got super polarizing, and then it was the unknown of like what COVID was, what it was. And so 2021 was actually the lowest number we've had since we opened in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we had to change everything. Gyms were not like everywhere was don't go to gyms, don't go to gyms, don't do it. And so 2021 was a huge, we kind of lost our way a little bit. Partnership lost our way. Everything's kind of lost its way a little bit in 2021.
Uh-huh.
What brought you back?
Being open and honest about
Yeah.
kind of what we were feeling and going through. And I don't know, probably just a little bit of like just not forgetting like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just started like looking at the positives. Like, because we went through some other stuff and like, okay, what did we learn from this COVID? Well, we
Yeah.
learned we could change our whole system in a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys
Pretty much.
think business gets addicting where like it goes good and then inevitably it's gonna go to well, so first and foremost, you guys in an industry, frankly, where a lot of people like started out because it's like a hobby or it's something they love to do, and then it just crashes because they don't actually ever become good at running a business.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, but do you feel like okay? Because I mean, I've been in business 3 years and it's been a ride. It's just different, but like I do you have a good month business and you're like, all right, I got shit cooking. And then the universe is like, nope, not right. You know, like, or just the high you had inevitably leads to a dip because that's just the nature of life. You know, you ebb and flow. How have you guys learned to navigate that stuff? Nick's
Dude,
gonna say
I mean,
ayahuasca. Ayahuasca.
just take them as they come and figure it out. It was funny because it's like one of those things like you always like put it in the universe. And I was thinking about this the other day. I think it was maybe Monday. Nick and I were at the gym Monday, or yeah, maybe Monday or Sunday. It was Sunday. And he's like, man, this might be like one of the first years we haven't had to deal with any bullshit. And then I go home and like open up this fucking letter. And I was like, Nick, that motherfucker put this bullshit in the universe. I got this stupid letter that no, we both got to deal with this.
Dude, it is true. It's almost like it makes you want to not celebrate. It makes
Forgot I
you want to
said that.
not celebrate the high
Yeah,
because you're like,
yeah,
oh yeah, shit. And I
yeah.
literally did that. I did that a couple weeks ago because I had a really awesome April. A lot of good things were cooking, and then May has just kicked me in the dick theoretically, and that's fine. That's life, and
Yeah.
it's okay. And it's
But
a lot of it's good because a lot
yeah,
of it's because I bet you bite off more than you can chew during the good times, and then you're like, oh shit, yeah, like okay,
yeah, yeah.
reality, right?
And sometimes like it's good for, there's certain things that are not good, but sometimes it's good to like, okay, we're not doing so hot this month. Where are we failing and like where do we need to be better? And I think that's good because it reminds you like, okay, like get it back into gear. Don't get don't get soft, like, you
Yeah,
know, keep capitalizing on the good things.
yeah,
And when you do these things, like everyone, all of your members, your clients end up having an even better time.
yeah, yeah. One of the big, I don't know, if you guys have analogies and stuff like that that you go to, but like one of my biggest analogies is like everything is just course correction. Like you're riding the waves, like training, rehab. It's not about like that there's a perfect path. It's just like, all right, just course correct a little bit, right? And I think the true wisdom is just getting better at like course correcting. Like I will say that me when it comes to training, I've gotten a lot better at like, all right, you're not trying to like bite off. You're not trying to make 6 weeks of progress in the next 6 days, which I think I did that over and over again. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
all right. Right. Same with like business. It's like show up and you got 3 to 4 things that you got to do on a daily basis and kick those down and then just ride the waves. Like the other thing, I just posted this because it's like Jerry Seinfeld talking about like that you can be depressed for like things when things are going good. And I'm like, yeah, like that's just, and my wife is super level. Like my wife is super emotionally regulated, and I'm realizing like I was like actually just suppressed everything for the long time. She's like, I'm like, are you ever just like sad? And you're like, yeah. Do you feel bad about being sad? I'm like, yes. Am I not supposed to? And she's like, no, you should just feel sad, and then it'll go away faster. And I'm like, I think that's what everybody does, right? Or a lot of us do. It's like, oh, I'm not very strong. I feel bad about not being strong. Well, like just fucking show up to the gym over and over again for a while and you're going to correct yourself, right? And instead or like my elbow hurts. Why does my elbow hurt? And then you just reinforce that your elbow's jacked up instead of just like doing what you can and it'll go away eventually, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I guess for me, that what I always tell myself, um, instead of like course correction, and maybe it's in the same realm, but I just say like life throws these events at you on purpose, and what you decide in that moment to do with it is either like you're either going to dig yourself a bigger hole or you're going to keep on succeeding. And if you keep surpassing these tests, like you're just going to have a much better life. um
I like
so I
that.
don't know, that's kind of where I lie on that, if that's remotely close.
No, I like
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That's a good analogy because it is
Yeah,
true. People don't realize how they're digging their hole sometimes, right?
yeah, and I've dug my hole deep
Yeah.
deep before, and sometimes you have to have like friends and family help you out and like get you out of
Dude,
it.
yeah, it's hard to ask for help, but usually when I'd ask for help, it's the best thing I could have done, right? So
Mhm.
yeah. Nick, you got one or
Yeah, I have taken the perspective that That's how crazy that good and bad is a subjective.
Yeah.
Like we kind of make it up. It's just an event, right? Like we got the letter yesterday. I was like, well, this kind of sucks. Like, wait, you know what? Fuck it. Could be one of the best things that ever happens. Who knows? Like
Mhm.
who knows? Like, yeah, like, who knows, right? But I've really taken that like we get so caught up in like there's always the positive and negative, negative and positive. Like you need both of them. So I'm just like just even keeled about every situation that comes, and like I think it helps us deal with it. Like, huh, is what it is. What we're gonna do about it? Like, we
Yeah.
just sit here and dwell on it, or we just like figure it out?
Yeah.
Like, it's good or bad. And so we like, you reflect, and like we made all these mistakes, but then like, well, it's a good thing we made those mistakes. Like, it's a positive we made those and learned what not to do.
Mhm.
It
So
really
like,
is interesting because like a lot of people kind of talked about grades. Like, man, I in undergrad, well, in high school I was a shit student. Undergrad, I kind of turned it around, and it was more about just me like wanting to like knowing that I could get good at learning because I kind of didn't think I was good at learning, which was kind of fucked up. But like it really is like a lot of people go through and they get good at what, and this is not shitting on anybody, but they get good at like what society tells them to get good at, but they never actually learn like what actually matters. So you get good at passing like tests that just honestly then a lot of people ask me like, how are you doing your business, or what does it look like, because it's very not normal physical therapy. It's not what normal physical therapy looks like and is in a lot of ways. And it's like, but you got to just be willing to fail all the freaking time. And that
Mhm.
sucks if you're used to passing every test with flying colors, right? Um, so yeah, it's really hard for people. It's hard for me, and I'm just scraping by. So, um, no, I like that a ton. The Versa Adventures. You guys are going to Zion. When is that? Let's pitch that at the end here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Going to Zion, kind of mid-ish, late November. Uh, it's just a branch of Versa to help people experience something that is hopefully transformative. That is still a very active trip, but not a fitness endeavor, essentially. More so just about living this Versa lifestyle. And we take you on a adventure that is not a super common thing that people would normally do. It's and you probably don't fit into this category, Dave, but a very common trip for someone is like, we're going to the beach and having margaritas for a week straight. So we want to get you outside your comfort zone and help you find something to transform into a better you, essentially. And and doing some of the events and things that we're going to be doing. I think are going to help people break out of that um maybe that like stuck version of themselves.
Yeah. Dude, nature's powerful. You guys know this.
Yeah, dude.
I think about Yosemite all the time. And I
It's
wasn't even that much of a nature person, but my wife, I mean, so Zion is a huge one too, but Yosemite is like this trip that just keeps going back to my brain. It's like, holy shit. Zion is
yeah,
one of the most beautiful places on earth. It's kind of wild. So,
I'm pumped. Yeah, and I'm really pumped to bring people there and be with them in those moments and hopefully
you're having somebody cook for you, right?
Ben Smart.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is he from
Yeah.
Iowa City area?
Yeah, dude. Best chef in the Iowa City area, corridor area, Iowa. We'll say
Ah,
Iowa. Fuck
there you
it.
go. Just keep selling it higher. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if
No,
you that we did get steaks and like a risotto thing. It was like a risotto cake at a restaurant that was local, super
that
freaking
sounds
good. So
good.
hopefully Ben can figure something out similar. But
Yeah. Well, you
dude,
should send me that restaurant and
I'll
I'll check it
I'll
out.
I'll try to remember. My wife's the coordinator for most of the stuff. But
Yeah, yeah.
that's
But I liked what you said about nature being really powerful. It's very um gosh, I don't know what word you used the other day, Nick, but it's such a like out of body. It can be so like such an out of body experience where you're like, holy shit, like you don't know what you're feeling right now, but they're like these like new feelings, and you're just like,
yeah.
I mean, not everyone experiences that, but I definitely have.
Well, I think there's people who have anxiety around like, you go on a hike, right? And it's challenging, but it's also like this is literally what humans were kind of built for, is like
Just living.
yeah, it's really cool. And it's, and that's like also like taking it back. One of my big things, while I always want to train is in some form, is like I want to hike. I want to be walking around these places. Hopefully me and my wife get to retirement at some point, or some version of it, and I can still just drive around in a van and hike at these places, right? And
Oh
do it
yeah.
at free will. So super cool. Are you guys doing Angel's Landing? Was that on the itinerary? I think I looked at
That's
it.
on the itinerary. I'm gonna apply for permits here coming up in a couple months,
Yeah.
for the lottery. And we've had a few people been like, I'm not doing that, but I think they'll change their mind come around November.
You can also go to the first part of it and not go up the chains, and also you can go to
Yeah,
the first part without permits. And if you get
and
to that point, you
and
can.
that's most of it, right? Is just
Yeah.
that first chunk. That's like the majority of it.
It's like a 2 mile. I don't know. It's like a 2 mile hike or mile and a half hike to that first landing, and then it's half a mile on, like, it's steep. It's scary. It's very cool. It's
Fun,
very safe.
fun. Yeah,
There's a little like French boy that did it really fast in front of us, and I'm like, God, he's like
yeah.
7, and it's like, all right, this
So
kid.
you would say that it is safe?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah, okay.
it's
I
like
feel like Instagram makes it look way scarier than what it is.
the shots, the action shots you can take and stuff, and like, I mean, it's a little bit freaky. And honestly, like, if you fall, if you like, yeah, if you do something really dumb, like, yeah, it's not gonna be a good time, but
Don't
it's
be
pretty
dumb,
sick.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
no, you guys will have fun. That's a good trip. Super cool for you guys branching out. I'll stay in touch and see how it goes overall. It's in November. How many more slots do you have?
Oh, we got about like I don't know, 5 to 7-ish,
Okay, cool.
something like that. Yeah.
Super cool. Well, good
Mhm.
stuff. Where can we find you guys on Instagram?
You can find me at Joshua Lambrecht, just JOUJOSHUA, geez, LAMBRECHT on Instagram. And then all of our gym links, podcast links are
What's
all
Douchey? Is that Douchey? Is Douchey Gym Bros its own account though?
Yep, and
Okay.
that's linked in my bio
Okay.
too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so Douchey Gym Bros, and I'm Burrell and
Okay. Cool.
Instagram.
No, thanks for pitching yourself. Good luck on the podcast. It's you guys are doing well, and yeah, it's you gotta. Unfortunately, the nature of the beast is that you gotta talk about shit on a regular basis, otherwise people forget about you. So,
Right?
dude, it's wild. People's
Yeah.
attention spans are super short. So, good stuff. I'm glad you guys are doing it. No, appreciate you. I'm gonna hit stop if you guys want to tell. Yeah, I'll hit stop right now.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thank you.